Rollback. Greetings, Facebook world. Today we're going to discuss this book right here. Designer Genes. Very important. Na Mukdad Baded Ptah, Na Muklas Baded YAANAN. No God except Ptah, no Savior except YAANAN. This book is very interesting. Pa Rasam or Yakas Act, the Designer Genes. You follow? Very important. So, their scientists, right? This specific gene is located on the first chromosome. Why they use, it's called DUF 1220. So DUF is actually an acronym. You follow? And the acronym is Domain of Unknown Function. So they first basically uncovered this card. The Talmud don't discover anything. They uncovered it in the year 2003, but they didn't understand the function of it. Then officially in 2006, they did more research, right? And the scientist that was responsible for that was known as Dr. James N. Silica, right? He was a lead researcher at that time to uncover this specific gene that's located on the first chromosome. So DUF is an acronym, and it means Domain of Unknown Function, right? And they labeled 1220 based on how they recorded each thing that they found. So this was a 1,220 gene, or it's been for the genome that they found. So they labeled it DUF 1220. And also another name for it is also Odovia domain, right? You follow that? And what happened? It replicates. It deals with brain expansion of the human beings, also in primates. Like for example, it duplicates itself in certain primates, like say monkeys, between 25 and 40 times, right? In humans, approximately 270 times. And you have what they term great apes, which is between 90 and 125 times. And great apes are like your gorillas, your chimpanzees, and your orangutan. You follow? So the gene is called DUF 1220. So this was utilized by extraterrestrial. What I'm giving you now is like the master secrets. This is why it's called the master secret. These are things that have been secreted by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Zior, who's been teaching since 1963. You follow that? So he gives you the next level of information of what so-called Mukasu uncovered. So in order for them to uncover this gene, right, that means it must have already existed. So who put it there? So it was put there by various extraterrestrials who was creating a specific being for a specific purpose. Like for example, you read in Genesis chapter 2, right? I'll start from verse 4. It says, okay, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heaven, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was no man to tilt the ground. So the purpose of this creation of this man was to tilt the ground, was to become a worker. So these beings are what we call your reptilians and your Pleiadians. They created a being, a specific being known as an Adamite for a specific purpose, right? They're supposed to till the ground or become servant, which is similar to the word savant. You follow that? So savants are beings like whatever field that they partake of, be it art, and a lot of savants are they're usually autistic, right? So whatever area or field that they perform in, they excel extraordinary. Their concentration is superb. They might have the same motor functions, but as far as focus and dedication, they got it cut. They got it down to the T. So this specific being that was created by these Pleiadians and the reptilians was to create a worker who didn't excel mentally past the age of 13. You follow that? So there's a savant by the name of Stephen Witchshire, right? Which is July 14, 2023, where he flew in a helicopter and looked at all like the landscape of all the scapes of all the building. So in one flight going around, he was able to memorize it, and in detail, he drew everything in the New York landscape just from one flight in a helicopter. So this is like the focus of the savant. So what happened, these extraterrestrials created a servant or a savant to serve them or to tilt the ground with certain things that it could be sexual pleasures. You follow that? It could be to protect, to be a warrior. So this was their purpose of why they created this being. Or to have sex, like in Genesis, that we created man in our image and after our likeness. And he told them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So this was all based on the design of gene. So it's called DUF 1220. So remember, DUF meant domain of unknown function. So it was unknown to them. So the purpose of Dr. Malachi's New York is like to give you information that they don't even know of why it was put there. So the reason it was put there within that gene or the first chromosome, why it says 1Q 1220, is the Q symbolize the chromosome, which is at the lower end of the chromosome where it's actually located. You follow that? So the mind of the 12-year-old, as explained to us by the master teacher, which the Mukasu, the Adamite, doesn't excel past, right? Is that they're always having toys, playing games, they're always into contests, and they like to experience danger. Like, you know, majority of Mukasu, they like to bungee jump. I was just watching something on the internet today where they roll, I think it's a cheesecake or something down a hill, and then the Mukasu will run down the hill trying to see who the first person is to catch what they're rolling down the hill. So this is a mentality of a child. So he's explained that the mentality of this Adamite that was created is that they don't go past the age of 13 by the actions that you see today. But all this is also within our genes as Negroes or Nagaru, because we're so mixed up, right? So we're going to exemplify these traits also because of mixing after thousands of years, right? So some of the things that this are these savants or the childlike behavior is that they're going to be good at certain hobbies, talents and skills such as dancing, drawing, singing, cooking, sewing, painting, fighting, killing, and serving, right? So these are some of the traits that's passed on that we see now, but it was specifically put there by extraterrestrial for a specific purpose, because thousands of years ago, as explained to us by the master teacher, in what you call Mecca today was actually what they term the Garden of the Light or the Garden of Eden. We follow that? And different extraterrestrials that go there or by the Kaaba where they kept what you call the me stones. You follow that? Or the Akasha records, which were like discs. Like you have this now like a CD player, but it was way more advanced, right? And different extraterrestrials where it was like basically your first freak show. You follow that? And they would bring their creation that they had, and they'll present it to each other, right? This is like millions of years ago. So one of the first creation that was presented to them was we call TT, or they call Eve in the Bible, and she was the first person basically to articulate, and that's what those specific extraterrestrial had presented at that time to those group of extraterrestrial that was there. You follow that? Then afterwards now, which is the Adamites, which is their 6,000 year history, where there was presented after, which is the servant that they created, as is mentioned in Genesis 2 verse 6 and 7, where they had to create someone to till the ground. So that was their main purpose and their focus. So different extraterrestrials, they come here for different reasons. Some for food, some for sports, some for pleasure. You follow that? That's why you have, like explained by the master teacher, that you can look at like prostitutes, they have a certain look, right? But there's certain genes that was put into them, and that's their specific purpose, where you get what you call nymphomaniacs. They just enjoy having sex because they're designed that way. And this is in all races and all genes and all people on the planet because of the mixing that actually took place. So this book, Designer Genes, right, is very informative, that breaks this stuff down. So basically in humans, there's over, as explained, like over 270 basically copies that's actually was made. And some things that you can find that associate with this gene is like autism and schizophrenia. And the same artist I was telling you about, by the name of Stephen Wilshire, he was also autistic. But one of his gifts was art, or to draw, or to be able to focus extremely well. And this goes into that DUF 1220 genes I spoke about, explained in more details within this book right here by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York. So this is definitely a master secret that needs to be checked out. Very, very, very informative, right? So these are some of the various things, and how even if you ever watched the movies called Addams Family, the creation there was Frankenstein. He was created. The whole family looks like a bunch of freaks, and look, it was called the Addams Family. See, Addams Family. And also about the Adamites, where they created the Adamites for one focus, which was just to be workers. Or as stated by the master, to be workers, or to be warriors, or just to be sex slaves. You follow that? That's the purpose they were created for by extraterrestrials. Because if you travel to a certain country, there's certain things that you're going to bring with you so your accommodation can be wholesome while you're in another country. The food that you bring, the accessories you might bring, just to function within that country properly. So extraterrestrial, as they come back and forth, they bring what they need, or they create it from what's already been, what's already here, so they can survive and thrive. And some actually use human beings for food. We're a food source, meaning that if extraterrestrial are coming from somebody else, from somewhere else, what are they going to eat while they're here to keep their life expectancy going? Because you have some extraterrestrial that like we call spiritual vampires, where they don't manifest, but they feed off of you, right? Off your energies, while they create like used coliseums or stadiums, because all that free energy from the excitement is that energy is harnessed by certain extraterrestrial. Certain extraterrestrial known as grays that goes into vats, and they absorb all the nutrients within inside their body, as explained to us by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York. So they create sports and competition, which is one of the things that was placed in the designer genes, but also for future purposes, which is to harness the energy. Then you have the spiritual vampires, where they feed off the blood, where it shows in the Bible where you had, when Abraham was told to sacrifice his son. So what happened, the blood attracts that spirit force. And a lot of people to this day, in different voodoo rituals, etc., where they'll use blood to attract a certain spirit force, because they have to feed that spirit. If not, those beings will eventually probably manifest and feed off the living. So they got to create other ways to feed themselves while they're in this environment called the planet Earth, right? Which is actually Plan ET, or Plan Extraterrestrial. So all that is explained within this, the Master Secret, authored by Dr. Malachi Z. York, the designer genes, as we term it, Pa, Rasam, or Yakas-At, the designer genes. But to the European or the Adamites, they term it as DUF 1220, which meant when they first discovered it or uncovered it, the domain of unknown function. So they never knew, and they still don't know. So that's why Dr. Malachi Z. York is here, to put us as Nuwapian Sabians, or those who want to know, to put you in the know, where in this day and time we'll become the Nabi, or the prophets to the world, and he becomes that angel, that deity that gives the prophets in the information to feed to the people. Because me explaining this now, people gonna be like, where the hell did you get that from? This brother is crazy. Where did he get it from? But years down the line, they're gonna see what we say or was taught by Dr. Malachi Z. York is actual facts. And that's what separates us from other groups or other teachers or other cultures, is that we're like 100 years ahead of them. And with his teaching, for example, if you look at a tree has many leaves, but all the information we have acquired thus far from Dr. Malachi Z. York is equivalent to one leaf on a tree. Wadu.